We're rolling. Oh.
We're live.
Welcome all residents of Lubec and all you YouTubers out there. Welcome to YouTube. In the honor of Carol, who is out today because of shoulder, the right hand of the gavel, because that's what caused her issues. We're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Wednesday, October 3rd, 2018. Let's start with the all wonderful, someone who
Approve the minutes.
No, the warrants first, please.
Oh, yes, let's sign the warrant so people can get paid.
Have a second on that?
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor? I'll put my. I don't know. Jeez. That's it. Sign it. And while we're at it, the minutes for September 20th. Moving right along. We have some
1998 John Deere 644G loader. We have it. It's incredible for the amount of money paid for it. It's like the Public Works dream come true. It's like their fleet is complete now with this loader. So they're very proud of it. And so I just wanted to let you all know that we do have it.
And we didn't have to take it from that crew down on Route 1, right?
That's right.
And as well, we have we asked the borough prior to this that we have a Rogers Island update as well.
I had a meeting with Mr. John Southern of the Down East Coastal Conservancy. I asked Rachel to join me so that in case I forgot anything. He sent the follow-up letters here the day after the meeting so that you all can read what the proceedings were. They are going to continually work to get this done. The town of Lubec will still own the island. The Down East Coastal Conservancy will place an easement on it so that we can put it in permanent conservation and go from there. He mentioned contacting a lawyer for the town's behalf, and he mentioned Deke Talbot is fluent in this. So it's not our regular attorney, but I don't know that there'd be any issue. It's probably done work for us in the past.
Yes.
So okay, so we'll continue with him if he calls him back. So I just wanted to update you that we are still working on it.
And the birds are still happy.
They are.
All right. On to new business. We have a honored guest here this evening. Fred Michaud of the Maine DOT is here to speak to us.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Fred Michaud. I'm a regional planner with the DOT. I have responsibilities in Touristic, Penobscot, Piscataquis, Washington, and Hancock, and the state's quite large, no doubt about it. Some of the other activities in which I'm involved, and I'm familiar with this area quite a bit, is Bold Coast Scenic Byway was something that I oversee all the byways in the state, and it's something that I worked with the Regional Planning Council very closely with to put into play. And I convinced the Bicycle Coalition that there was life beyond Bangor and that they should bring Bike Maine 2016 to this region. And it was an overwhelming success. Building on that, though, there's a very big interest in bicycling, not only here, but in the St. John Valley that just had a successful Bike Maine. There is a lot of bike activity in the Katahdin area that's recovering from, loss of mills. Mr. Smallwood is involved with this, and we'll get involved with this conversation in a moment. But I'm president of the Katahdin Area Trails, which is mountain biking. I know I don't fit the mold, but we're involved with developing trails and scenic byway amenities and other things. How I came to this particular meeting is the Bing DOT received an inquiry from the Butler Foundation, which owns a piece of land on Red Point, and they own another place up near Race Point on Crow's Neck at the end of the point. And what the Butler Foundation sponsors, I want to just use, for lack of better words, outdoor recreational activities, environmental, getting kids in tune with nature and off the couch. Let's go with that moment. In the Katahdin area, there are bicycling, kayaking, cross-country skiing. All of this is paid for by the Butler Foundation in terms of the infrastructure. They pay the bus drivers to bring children for 150 miles around. They're school-age kids. They have middle school and high school. There are literally hundreds of kids from far away as Newport going canoeing in Passadumkeag River, or kids from the county coming down and participating in this. There are no costs to the town or the county or anybody. It basically is covered through a foundation that Mr. Butler has established. He has schools in New York, and I believe one in Patagonia. Is that your understanding?
Yeah.
So he comes in and he does this because he's passionate about children's health and activities, and he's an avid bicyclist. I believe he's at least 80 years old, and he's still an avid bicyclist, cross-country skier. So I think he's trying to leave that legacy. So how I came here is that when you come out of Red Point, the facility at Red Point, his land there, and you head back towards Whiting, there are no shoulders for 0.6 of a mile on the highway. Then you get down there and there are shoulders at that point all the way back to Route 1. Although they're only 3 feet wide, they still offer some protection for bicyclists and for people breaking down. It also protects the edge of the road from deteriorating. Mr. Butler and the foundation have asked whether or not there'd be a chance to participate in a cost sharing of adding shoulders to that 0.6 of a mile both sides of the road. The DOT has a program called Municipal Partnership Initiative. And what it is we call it a demand response program, because we probably weren't out here looking for a project, but if the community and others are looking for a project and they're willing to pay into the game, we have this program that up to $1 million from the DOT to fund a project. So if somebody puts up $1 million, we can match that $1 million. And that's what it requires, is a 50-50 match. The only problem is that the Butler Foundation, being a private entity, can't enter into that agreement. This is for municipalities. So in many cases, municipalities can enter into the agreement with DOT on behalf of that person or that foundation. They would put up the money. In fact, the entire project has to be constructed. It's a reimbursement program. It'd have to be constructed with Butler Foundation money. It would be reimbursed through the town to Mr. Butler, and it would be minus any fees for administration. Now, let me talk about what administration that means. Renee is certified to do something called local assistance program, which means that the DOT can save costs and money by passing along for administration at the town. Of course, in some cases, the town is doing the project and it benefits them to pay for that. Well, Renee wouldn't be working for the town's benefit on this one necessarily, and there would be a way to compensate the community for her time. That way you don't end up paying any of the burden. What I'm here to talk about is the involvement that the town would have to take on to enter into this agreement. Mr. Butler would put up, let's just say for talking purposes, $400,000. That would be the entire project, 0.6 of a mile, both sides of the road. Renee would make sure that the engineers are on board. We won't leave her alone all by herself. We have John Devins, the regional engineer. He'll be very much on top of this in terms of providing assistance. We have pre-qualified engineers who can help design this thing. You put out the contract bids and be basically through the town, but it's in this partnership arrangement. We will provide all the technical support. It's a lot more easy for us to do it this way than to do it ourselves. we tend to be bureaucrats sometimes if it gets convoluted. And so this is a more expedited process. What I've handed you is guidelines for this program here. And a lot of it's just, you know, the useful life of the project, how the project gets delivered, the public involvement. They could have to have a public meeting to tell what's going on. The DOT would look at it and see whether or not it's a benefit to the state's transportation system. And we've already pre-cleared it with our head of maintenance and operations for the DOT. They're on board with this. There's no right-of-way issues here, which is kind of good. There's sufficient room, and when you're out that far, telephone poles don't get in the way too much. We have a requirement that the end of pavement can only, the telephone pole has to be so far separated from the roadway. Start paving, you've just taken out 3 more feet. In many cases, the poles would have to be moved. We're not in that situation, but if we came into town over the next 10 years, for example, started coming in, then those poles would become a problem. We'd have to relocate them. With the DOT and the municipality involved, the power companies are on the hook for moving the poles at their cost. They're in the state's right of way, so there's no cost there. So it's run with a project manager. So anything is, you know, let's just take Renee would be the administrator, but all the other people would be people with experience in project management. The construction companies would be legitimate, and they'd have to meet certain specifications that an engineer draws up. This is all like a DOT project, only scaled down and more expeditious. So what I'm here to do is answer any questions about how this project would go together, any questions you have, and whether you have potentially an interest in having that discussion about funding this project and getting it off the ground, and whether it's of interest to the community.
I think it's of great interest to the community, but when do you anticipate starting this?
Next year.
Next year.
The word I get, I think you get it done next year. I think if this were to go about a contract with DOT could be executed rather quickly, then it would free up to hire an engineering firm to do the design. John Devon, as I said, would definitely provide all the level of assistance to Renee, and she would be, in other words, we're not going to just say, here, go figure this out. That an engineer would then go design it. And it's not basically, what is the materials going to have to come out? They're going to have remove some, add new of a certain gradation or meeting certain specs. And they would design all this so that when you went out to bid, there's a bid package. So whoever gets it would know that the gravel of a certain quality is going to have to be done, built, installed. We don't anticipate any pipes changes or culvert changes. We've looked at that. It doesn't get into that, which would be problematic. It's basically widening the shoulder, but we don't want it to be, you know, floating independently of the road because it's differential materials.
That's good. I'm only saying that because Renee right now is involved heavily in our sidewalk projects.
Yes.
We don't want to overload her with too much management.
No.
And in addition to that, because I'm on the recycle committee, I just want you to know we've got lots of pulverized glass. If you ever need it, you can throw it in.
Sparkles at night. Yes, I know she's involved with the sidewalk committee and with my colleague at the main DOT. So
Yeah.
But, oh, you get Mike. Oh yeah, Mike had just had open heart surgery. What it's worth, he's out for a few months, so he's getting better. Other questions?
So this is no cost to Lubec at all.
Absolutely. In fact, the idea of the fee for her time, keep it.
Right.
That way, it just goes into the fund. You pay her a regular wage, and whatever that is, plus the overhead would be picked up somewhere in that contract.
And I know the area you're speaking of, and that could use
Yeah,
a wider shoulder.
yes,
Definitely.
yes.
Well, I think bicycling, Crystal Hitchings, the
Yes.
regional council, is pushing biking down here like crazy right now, and I think
It sleeps.
well, and I think you're going to see the benefit of that. People are coming, and they like to come down to places, and so if it's safer.
Yeah, and anybody who drives along here and sees bicyclists, you have sympathy because there really isn't a lot of places for them to come. So, you know, I think we're all in favor.
Do you want to know, go ahead. You have a question.
I just, want to know if there's any way that we could entertain, in the future, coming further than Red Point.
Yes, but I don't know
You
how
know,
that,
people are gonna ask, why are you favoring this, just this one portion? Why aren't you bringing it in, into town further?
I can't answer the why, other than I speculate that there's two pieces of land, and this provides a safe connection to pieces of land he owns. It also ties into an existing end.
But you see where I'm coming from.
Oh, I grew up in East Monadnock, and I understand all of this. And, same thing.
I mean, I think it's great, but
You know,
there
and
are
maybe,
gonna be questions why.
Over time, there can be other funding sources. I mean, the town's eligible to go after, by the way, private foundation funds such as the Butler Foundation and others.
Mhm.
A lot of times foundations don't fund municipal projects. The Butler Foundation is tied to economic development, community betterment, and those types of things. And that's where Crystal and Judy East come in very handy. They're very attuned to this world. It's a long march, I would say, to bring that next 3 or 4 miles, and you're probably talking, if you get it done in 10 years, you'd be lucky, but, it's gonna be incrementalism, and how it gets funded may be, I don't know if Mr. Butler has other thoughts or other designs in the future, whether there's an interest in coming this way.
We'd certainly entertain it.
I think it's a great idea, I just don't know if that this is the moment for that.
Okay.
But I think keep it on the radar as part of your planning efforts and your thinking.
Thank you.
Any other questions here before we go to the floor? No, it's fine. Anyone on the floor, Stephanie?
I'm gonna go right off what Joanne said. There's gonna be a lot of questions, I think, if you just stop at someone's private property. And what is this gonna do for the Lubec people that are in town when it starts there and stops there? And what about us? Like, this is great for him and his friends and everything, but there is gonna be some questions, I think, and I'm gonna have some too.
It may be, and I can only tell you my experience with the Butler Foundation in the Katahdin area. There's no his people. His people are your middle school kids and your high school kids. This caters to their getting outdoors. In the Katahdin areas, if kids don't have skis, the skis are provided. The trails are all groomed and they're maintained. There are warming times. Kids arrive on buses that are paid for by the Butler Foundation. The drivers are paid for. Lunches are provided to the children. So there is a benefit, but it's in a different one. It's in a situation where those recreational opportunities and those learning experiences probably wouldn't be afforded in most towns in Maine because it's not the priority. The loader would be a bigger priority.
And I understand that, but the kids aren't gonna be biking along the side of the road. So how does this relax? I'm sure, there are opportunities. I'm very familiar with the Middle Knocket area and what is going on over there. But this particular thing, I mean, there's other opportunities for the kids, but how does this go to what you're saying about the kids and the
I don't know if they will be on the road or not. I have no idea. Other people will be, and there'll be people between his two facilities, going between Crow's Neck Road, is that what it is? And Red Point.
Yeah.
That's what this does. It makes that connection. These places are open to the public. People will be able to go in there and use them. Won't be able to necessarily access them with vehicles, but they'll be open to public for use, bicycling and other things. That means you. That means me. And
I live in town, so I wouldn't be able to bicycle down there and drive the road. I'd be able to drive down there and then bicycle.
I'm just saying is that to do 4 miles, to do into town and all that, an incredible burden on any one individual, regardless of wealth. I don't know how that gets done, and I think it's just persistence over time, and it isn't going to all happen at once. And it may. I mean, I don't know what the alternatives are should the town not want to participate with this. I don't know if there's a project to come about. So I'm just saying.
This will still bring people here.
Yes,
Oh, I understand that.
and it's not taking anything from the town. There's nothing leaving the town, except for Renee's.
It's going to start a conversation one way or the other, but the conversation could be positive. It's like, we need to think about getting this done. If bicycling should become an economic driver or an impact here, it could lead to how do we get the rest of it done? that's an interesting conversation.
It's a
Yeah.
start.
Yes,
It's a good start.
yeah, very good start.
Because bicycling to Mainers, I mean, we worked on the boats, we worked in the factories. Recreation was always secondary, more so on the coast than inland. But it's kind of bringing a new economy to rural areas in the state, and there's some growing pains there. Where's the infrastructure? How do we achieve those goals? And then you get 4 different groups fighting with 4 different visions. It's quite a challenge.
And I don't mean to be negative, but I'm
No.
gonna question this to the fullest.
It's fine.
But you're here for MnDOT or are you here for Mr. Butler?
I'm here for Maine Dot. I just happen to know a lot about their operations up north. And I mean, I don't want to say I'm biased, but I'm up to my eyeballs in Katahdin Woods and Water Scenic Byway. And that's adjacent to it. I also am the president of Katahdin Area Trails, which doesn't, it works in tandem with Butler and others trying to develop bicycle tourism. It's mountain biking and things of that nature, where he's more of the trail type of thing, more not the kamikaze bicycle.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. I've been working over in Millinocket on some grants.
Yeah.
In conjunction with some of this stuff, so.
Yeah.
I'm a little familiar with it.
This could also be a good benefit for our kids.
Mhm.
I mean, really.
What were some of the numbers you were giving me on the phone about
Well,
this fall, right now?
they just kicked off a bicycle. Yes, Stuart, were you, Spencer, I mean, were you part of that?
Yes, yes, it was.
Spencer McCormick works with the community college in the outdoor recreation field, and he's been working closely. Maybe you could talk about what you've seen over there this year with respect to canoeing and bicycling.
So this fall, my main focus was intro to sea kayaking on the freshwater and Horn River. And we've already served about 200 students from Perry to Whiting schools, 8 different grade schools. And then we just put out a pilot mountain biking program all along Race Point. And that'll be happening in the spring to, again, all those same schools, and to look to broaden our scope of schools and start bringing in more members.
The number that I'd heard about anticipated for next year would be for 9th grade, more than high school kids, was approximately 600 they hope to get through the sea kayaking program, whatever that is.
I've seen them in Wyoming.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I own all the property, right?
Oh, yeah?
Who provides the kayaks for this?
Mr. Butler himself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Would you
everything.
provide mountain bikes?
They're already here.
They're all
I
about,
like this guy. Now, because my mind is racing here in terms of kids, town kids. We have a PE program here, and I see no reason why that wouldn't be part of the PE program at Lubec School if we wanted to participate. Would that be possible?
Yeah, I mean, we already work with the kids just earlier this week.
Wonderful.
We took
Kayaking.
all
With the new
5th to 8th
PE
grade out.
teacher, Ashby, Bill Ashby?
No, they were
Uh,
kayaking.
No, Larry Jones and
Okay.
Kathy Morse.
Okay,
They're working
good,
along.
good.
did you, when this started, was the outreach to the superintendents and the principals too, or?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's how I understand, that's the first group they try to meet with to let them understand what they're trying to do.
Good, good.
Yeah, and again, Mr. Butler's all about, providing an opportunity for school-age kids to be aware of their outdoor environment, how unique it is. He fell in love with the area, very passionate sea kayaker and mountain biker himself. And getting the community attached back to the land,
Yeah.
doing that through school-age kids. So.
It's very good for everyone to know that, that it's not just something you're taking off privately. Sometimes you don't want to blow your own horn, sometimes you have to blow your own horn.
Another thing I would like to maybe, for you guys to take back to Mr. Butler or the foundation, that this town desperately needs bus transportation for our kids. The soccer games recently, we haven't had buses, so we've had to carpool to take them to their recreation, to soccer, to cross country. We desperately need transportation. So if there's anything that the Butler Foundation can do to help the school, we're only K through 8, We've got 2 buses and they're full-size buses. If, you know, we could kick in a little, or, you know, maybe like a 16-passenger bus, we'd certainly appreciate that.
Not to belabor this point, but I am a stickler for electric buses or non-diesel consuming gas.
I'm
buses.
just asking for any bus. I don't care.
I know,
Electric,
but I gotta put a push in for something that's.
You want a bus that can run on crushed glass.
Yes, oh, that would be such a good idea.
But I'm
Gas
just saying,
glass.
you know, these kids are trying to get to recreation, and if they could get out to Red Point, you know, with a bus, I mean, we need an extra bus.
I'm gonna also throw a little factoid about up north about the impact of these, about the economic impact. They've recently, in the last 2 years or so, purchased 4,500 acres on both sides of the East Branch of the Penobscot, about 10 miles up Route 11 from Medway. My old fiddle-heading flats, to be exact. And in there, they've developed miles upon miles of roads using the carriage trails in Acadia as the model. There are no vehicles allowed on them other than service.
Yeah.
They are that quality.
That's-
And there's also a monstrous building that I just saw this weekend. I took a ride up. Tucked in the trees is this new facility where these children will go and get their equipment, and they kind of gather there. And it's no small, it's quite a project. I mean, sometimes I'm jaded, but that was pretty impressive. And,
Yeah, yeah.
but the miles of trails are amazing. I mean, the quality, again, he hired sergeants just to come in and do it, for example, because they do a quality job. And, Sam
Is
Cole-
this like a summer camp or is it just a trails?
It's not a camp, it's a trail for recreation, for families, group, I mean, most everything is centered around the program for the children, and basically target is 5th through 8th graders.
Mhm,
There is some high school involvement in other areas, but that's the main emphasis.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of times, and Spencer mentioned this to me a few weeks ago, that when we get these children out and they're out and they're paddling on the Orange River and stuff like that, and they go back, and there's a lot of them will go and they'll bring their parents back
That's-
to experience the same thing.
Yeah.
And the vision that I see happening is you get the biking done and the children go and the parents go, and then you've established another generation that's coming up that's gonna keep this stuff, gonna keep
Yes.
working towards
That's
the same
wonderful.
goal.
Yeah.
You know, that's sort of the vision that we have.
Well, I'd like to thank you for coming and
Yes.
speaking, as well, all of you for the Butler Foundation. I'd like to, from the town, thank Mr. Butler for his continued passion of the children, and as well for the love of our area, as we continue to work with him.
Well, he is a man of mystery. You know, sometimes we think, there's really no Mr. Butler. He's just a figment of somebody's imagination.
Oh, no problem.
As we continue to work with him, we, again, would like to thank him for his
Do
passion.
you have any guidance on the MPI, how you want to approach it? You want to deliberate it a while long? I mean, in other words, I just need to, at some point, come back and revisit it, if you will, and give it some consideration, because I don't want to voice this on to Renee, but there's some motions, actions that have to be taken by DOT at some point, so we just need to know if the green light was on.
I mean, I don't have any, I mean, there's
I see no
no skin off the
obstacles.
town. And no obstacles, I think the most important piece here would be a very simple question. And that would be if it were okay with Renee.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
We can all sit there and go yippee yahoo, but
Can we get some of the town meetings that's gonna involve,
Yep, we can
can
go.
we do that
I
during
mean,
the
certainly
winter?
go forward so we know what, I mean,
Like a
yes, we can
timeline.
all say we don't have any
Yeah, we can put together.
financial tie-in, but there are
Yeah.
some meetings that we have to do.
Well, John Devon and I can help to spell that right out very clearly. It's pretty linear. It's not extraordinary. I mean, it's a small project. There will be questions and there will be public meetings.
Mhm.
But then John Devon may be available to come down and provide that insight too, because he is the regional engineer.
The drawdown, where I am right now on the sidewalk project, it should be the same,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I'm fluent in that now, but Suzette and I work very well together, so. It's just, I wasn't involved in the beginning of the sidewalk, so John did all that, the public hearings and the town meeting.
Sure.
You have to go to all that, you have to do all that, the RFP, and
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna have to, John
Yeah,
doesn't
whenever you get public money involved, you have to.
Well,
That'd be
you have
good
to accept
winter.
it. You have to have
Yeah.
meetings, you have to
Yeah,
accept it.
That'd be good winter project.
Well, there might be, it might be, you might have to do it before, I mean, do you know what the time frame is?
I'm not totally familiar with timeline. When they want to do it? I don't know. We can take a look at that and back it up. But there is a batch plant right over here in Coop. Is there Maine on a batch
Oh,
plant?
in Charlotte. Yeah,
Charlotte, yeah, that's rules. So they have a plant. So I mean, they're mobile. They're operating all summer long. So it's just a matter of getting it done and scheduling it. I'm sure it's going to be earlier the better, but we also recognize there's a timeline on this end that you have to endure too. So we'll be sensitive to that.
So certainly we can go forward doing that. And, for the appreciation of the 6/10, yes, we can passionately continue to try to work towards efforts to get them further into town. But thank you very much for coming all the way out.
No problem.
For all of you, very much appreciated.
The big joke is that I called Renee. I said, I'll book the hotel for tomorrow night.
No,
There's no room at the inns. It's a lot of money.
Oh, we got a couch.
And having been worked closely with the Bike Maine Coalition a couple years ago, it was a fantastic event. So I know there's a passion for all of
Yes.
that.
Yeah, shall we have a motion?
A motion to continue
Pursue.
and pursue the project with the Butler Foundation and Maine DOT for the 6/10 of a mile.
Second.
Second motion?
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor? Thank you again very much.
The other thing is, if you haven't been on the site and you want to, Randy,
Paul.
Paul and Arthur, I'm sure would take you on a walk through that.
Actually, Randy took me, because he was fixing my car.
Yeah.
On the way back to get my car, he said, hey, you wanna go see the Butler? I said, yes.
It looks amazing all the way down.
It is.
I remember when it
It's,
was the camp.
it's very reminiscent of the Cobb's Cook camping ground. but
Thank you, Fred.
the same way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice.
See you later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We go from bicycles to airplanes.
Well, there.
No.
No.
Marty,
Oh,
are you gonna stay for the airport discussion? Let's do the
Yeah.
second.
No fun. There'll be a slight delay on that airlines and this is Lubec Fire Department ambulance auction. Sounds like a quick.
Yep,
Okay.
this is the old ambulance that was donated to the fire department from Old Lyme, Connecticut. It's a 1996. It's no longer needed. It's been sitting for probably at least 2 years. So the fire department has finally decided to auction it. So they're just looking for the permission to do that, and the select board does have that authority.
I don't know why they don't just pay it forward and just give it to somebody like they did with us. It would be a
That's
lot
what you want
easier
to do?
to put it out there and say, come get it. That's my thing.
I like that.
Wow.
I'll make a motion, we pay it forward.
To another town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
I need
organization.
that.
Yeah.
I agree with Joanne.
That's a good idea. Good thinking.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Seconded?
Second.
All those in favor? Well done. Now, without any further delay.
A question.
Oh, a question in the back, I'm sorry.
I got a question on that. The reason why we decided to do that, to sell it, we're gonna take the money we get out of that, but for the new fire truck that we're wanting to purchase it.
Do you really think you're gonna get that much, Gary?
Yeah.
Do you really think you're gonna?
No, but every dollar counts, like what we discussed. I mean.
We could probably raise more
$1,500.
money expressing the fact that we've paid it forward. And in missing that opportunity for any further income, if anyone would like to give some donations
Goodwill.
to the fire department and Goodwill, you're more than welcome to call
I don't
me
want to
here
take
at the
anything
town
away
hall.
from the fire department, that's for sure, but I didn't think that, I mean, it was like the ambulance, how long did that sit at
Yes,
Randy's? I mean,
waiting.
those were coming out through the friggin'
That's right.
sidewalk.
But we still got like 2,000.
So any
I don't-
donations in lieu of our paying it forward,
Little
please,
flowers.
please speak, in lieu of the
I don't
flowers
wanna take
growing.
anything away from the fire department, I don't wanna be,
Please come up to the town hall and sign away. And now, with no further delay, an airport donation request tonight?
Yes, this is also from Mr. Butler's foundation. There is additional funds needed to finish the project. He would like to donate an additional $9,455 to finish up what we have so far done. And there will still be work that needs to be done in the spring. But this is going to finish up the mast, the extended mast that went up, and the windsock, and extra things that came about.
Yes. I noticed some new bells and whistles out there when I went past. It was
They were
looking like a real airport.
They were extended from what was originally planned, but it's, you know, with the opinions of everybody involved, that's what came about. So there was some forms that were needed, and relocating multiple different times the location of those, the windsock and the beacon. They hired an electrician from Millinocket area. Caribou. He does this with airports, and he came down and helped finish up the project appropriately. So the lights are working. The approach lights have not been installed. Those are another monster, I guess. They have to be encased in cement, and that wasn't known. So that's gonna be more in the spring. But right now,
the lights on the other night, and
Yes.
somebody was complaining about that.
the way that it
You're probably
was,
getting
Are they
it checked.
radio activated?
they are, but the beacon and the windsock are going to be hooked up to be radio activated. The way it was, there was a photo sensor, so they would run all night long.
Right.
Now, they've disconnected them until Mark can come back and wire it so that they only come on with pilot activation. Which I did check with the FAA, and it can be hooked up right away.
When I was out there, everybody was working.
Here we go again.
Community.
Yeah, that's good to know. That's good.
I hate to be the negative one, but I'll tell you something. This town needs so many things. And when I look down here, it really ticks me off that we have spent $40,000 on this airport. For what? For 2 or 3 planes to fly in and out? That really gets me. When we need a bus to bus our kids, because they can't go to a friggin' game after school, and so many more things we need. It really, really ticks me off. And nobody wants to tick me off, believe me. It just really does. We need so many more things in this town than that. Jesus. Need a new fire truck. That I'm gonna get crucified for because I wanted to pay it forward with the other old one.
Joanne,
What, dear?
at the risk of ticking you off,
Go ahead.
you know that I live on the approach path.
Yes.
And in August, there were days when we saw as many as 6 aircraft in one day.
I'm sorry, but I find it hard to believe.
I'm just correcting your
I've lived here
tutor.
all my life. That airport, whatever. We need $40,000 for other things. That's my opinion.
Please
I'm done.
understand, we didn't approach him.
I'm sick about it.
They came to us.
I'm sick about it. I'm sick that someone spent $40,000 on
And
that
more.
airport.
There's gonna be more.
Well, when we need so many more things in this town.
So do we need a motion to accept the,
$9,455.
Yes.
I would actually like to talk to Mr. Butler personally. But I know that will never happen, but, you know, if he could come and just look around here and see how some of these people are living. I mean, it's,
well, I think in his way, he is doing that. I mean, maybe not to the extent to which some people would like, but I think he is trying to do that.
well, not in my estimation.
Yes.
I just have a question. Has there been any indication that Mr. Butler was going to be pulling his request to eliminate all his property taxes? Is that, I was hearing something that he might pull it, but he is going through with that?
He pays taxes. He pays even with the open space lands. He still pays.
Yeah.
I think Jim
Yeah.
told me
There
around
was a-
10,000.
And I think the last discussion was he'd actually, in one piece of property, end up, by the end of next year, be paying more
Yeah.
because of
Well,
the
there
structures.
was,
that
there
he's
was a
putting in.
request that was
For
put
the
in,
pipelines.
at one time, that was a couple months ago, that it came up
It
and
was the
said,
pipeline, it was a pipeline.
it was that, and, yeah, and Jim was here, and they're
Yes.
discussing that he had in fact put in to reduce his taxes on there.
That wasn't off the tax rolls for quite a few years before.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
ever purchased it.
When he purchased it, it was off the tax.
Mhm.
That's right. Yeah, for about 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, so it was not a,
That's right.
Well, we are elected by the people. And I feel that the people need to know that that's how much money they're spending and more out on that airport when we need other things.
I think probably that goes back to me saying, we need to know, the people need to know more about what Mr. Butler's doing. That I think that sometimes it's shrouded in secrecy, and there are people here who will look perhaps a gift horse in the
Well,
mouth.
if you wanna be a parent, Rachel, that's fine. But you know what? This town is not gonna survive being a park.
No, I totally agree with you, but I don't think that's where we're going. I think it's, what he is doing is providing an opportunity for kids in this town to have a healthy lifestyle. It started with the marathon. Marathon does the same thing. They have reimbursed to the town several thousands of dollars for their help. And I'm sure that there will be reimbursement from Mr. Butler, maybe not monetary, straightforward money, but there's a lot of reimbursement to the town for its support of him
Okay.
and his endeavors.
Okay.
Sure, we needed a bus.
That's just one item. There's many, many more.
Part of what Joanne's talking about is we gotta work on getting some jobs here.
Absolutely,
Year-round jobs.
absolutely.
And I mean,
Mhm.
that's what we gotta do. But that has
I
nothing to
agree
do
with the
it.
beautification. I think it's lovely. I think it's beautiful. I think it's great for the kids to come and enjoy, but we need so much more here. I know he thinks we're gonna, okay, or whoever thinks that it's gonna bring in, whatever. I mean, if we bus kids in here, I'm glad for the kids. They have a chance to do whatever. But we need so much more here. If we're even gonna have kids here. I mean, our families can't stay here because they can't provide for their kids.
We definitely need to attract
I'm
younger people.
I'm done.
So in return, the motion to accept the donation funds from Mr. Butler for the airport.
I will make that a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
3.
All those opposed?
I'd like to see it used for other things. Thank you.
Could I say something?
Nope, absolutely.
I'm not gonna defend Mr. Butler or anything in what he does, but I just want to say, how many other people from away or from out of state come in and try to help this town in any way?
Where do you think that he's,
I'm not asking for a discussion. I want to know how many other people out there, like Mr. Butler, that would want to help out in any way.
I just wish he'd help in other ways.
But having been accepted, thank you again for the foundation and for the money. Moving on. Next item. Well, let's do a quick one. Are we you guys all gonna work on Monday, the 8th of October?
wait a minute. You got
Yeah, I know. I'm
Stay-
just getting
stay
some
news
positive
tonight.
quick out of the way.
Probably work, it's not here.
Renee, you wanna work on Monday, the 8th? No? No, we're gonna be closed here.
Wonderful.
Come on.
As the camera person behind this going, yeah. Okay, so the office will be closed October 8th for Columbus Day. Please mark that in your calendar.
No, I gotta
Don't
take
try
a
to
kid
come
back
pay
to
your car
college.
taxes or something like that. Oh, our cats and kittens. Do we have a problem here, Renee?
We don't, we have good news.
Yeah, good
There is a free spay and neuter and a wellness clinic for cats and kittens, October 19th to the 21st at the Callis Recreation Center. That's at 7 Academy Street, Callis, across from Dunkin' Donuts. Everybody knows where that is.
Will that be on our website?
It's on Quality TV, and I will put it on the website. And to schedule, you can call 271-8397. I'm sorry, 8395.
That sounded very Bob Barker. Have your picks.
Come on back.
Right. When I see appointment papers, I mean we have a few outstanding.
We do.
Yet to
We say-
complete. You ever ask Carol's
Say
nightmare
for
for any of these?
We'll take care of that. This is for the Economic Development Committee and the Recycling Committee. So far, we've got Rachel, myself. Rhonda, you at one point said yes to this committee, so I jumped
Economic
into it.
development.
Economic Development and Denise Rule. And I left a blank one if you had anybody else that you knew of.
We'll just plug Carol in.
that-
That'll teach her to be on.
Which one do we need there
That's the Economic Development, and here's a blank one if you know of anybody else that you want to put on
for?
Economic Development.
Don't put me on there.
Can you have 2 selectmen?
Probably not.
Why can't you have one as an alternate?
There you go. I'm an alternate. I just happen to show up all the time. That's what it is.
Since we're talking about economic development, would this be a good time for me to bring up this conference?
Yeah.
There is a conference coming up on the 11th in Bangor, I believe, yes. And Denise and I were going to go, but I may not be able to go. I would like Denise to go, but I would like if the town could find its way to reimburse the entry fee of $70 or gas mileage, I would appreciate it. These things are getting expensive.
So she's looking for a motion to pay probably out of the selectmen's travel expense.
Do we have any money left in ours?
Yeah?
Well, then I see no reason not to spend it on the selectmen's expense.
Okay, it may be,
Oh, here we go.
Or delegate.
no, it may.
Yeah, maybe
it may
dinner and a
solely
movie,
if I can't go.
dessert.
Yeah, that's right, but mine, there's a movie there, and I like
Jason.
shopping. No, if Denise can go in my place, could we do the same for Denise?
Yes.
Good.
Did you want to be added? Do you want to put? probably
Yes,
should.
if that's important.
Okay, so this is Rhonda.
Speaking of Rhonda, welcome back.
Come on, your last name.
Welcome back.
How you feeling?
Excellent.
What you did was wonderful.
You are a good woman.
It was tough, I won't minimize it.
I'll bet, I'll bet.
So you want to make that one motion for the economic?
One motion,
You
yes,
look lovely.
seconded by Rachel, because she
By Dan.
always seconds everything.
You betcha.
Say,
Seconded Rachel. To have Rachel, Renee, Rhonda, Denise, and Dan for the
Yeah.
economic development.
all those in favor?
What about Carol? Was Carol on it anyway?
No, she's not. She bowed out of that.
Okay, secondly is the recycling committee. We've got Rachel, Landon Farrell. I've made, he's a minor. I don't think that's an issue.
I don't think you have to do that.
We could have his mom
Yeah,
sign.
Kenny Moores, Mike Scribani, David Aldridge,
But good for him.
Rachel. Oh, there's 2 for you.
And we, well, do I dare mention your name now as an alternate? Okay, Gary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't make papers up. Yeah, I guess.
Gary could be an alternate to Kenny, because sometimes Kenny can't come, so we could put Gary in as an alternate.
You got me being the basic stuff, so.
You remind me again.
You're in now.
Not shoving you up, are you?
We're all gonna go flying out of here.
Okay, so it's not 3 days, but.
Still high.
Who wants to make that motion?
I will make that motion.
And I will second.
Second, go ahead.
Second by Jason, all those in favor?
You can't.
You're gonna be done knitting by the time
No,
we're out.
no, they crossed my name out there for Gary Rhodes.
No, that one, I had a duplicate.
Oh, okay.
All right, and the last one is fire chief. Robert Hood.
You say that really fast, it sounds like Robin Hood.
Robin Hood.
Was he included in this whole?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So motion made by
Yeah, I'll make it.
Joanne to appoint
Robert
Robert Hood
I will
And his
second.
band
as
of
fire
Barry
chief.
then.
and seconded Jason.
All those in favor?
I'll be frying a cock.
Well, I ain't gonna make it.
Yeah, you can make.
Oh,
Okay. Couple more days. Quick ones.
Onward we go. Item 7 of 9, in case all of you are keeping score. FEMA grant application for a fire truck.
I went to a class in Addison presented by the FEMA Fire Truck Grant Gods and learned a lot. And so I've started the application process for a fire truck for Lubec. And I've been working with Chief Bobby Hood, and we're gonna try to get through it. And at
Good.
least if we don't get it, at least we'll try.
Well, thank you for.
is it a difficult application?
There's about 9 tabs and they're pretty lengthy. So it's gonna make him tighten up on some of his procedures with reporting and
Yeah,
such.
you know who's good at this? Is Judy Eakes.
Yeah.
She'll help you. Yeah.
We need one.
I know that we, some of the requirements that you have to be NIMS compliant, and we are, so that, between Bobby and I, we both took all those
Yeah.
ISO classes.
Good.
So,
I am, are you?
NIMS compliant,
I'm very new.
not nimble. Finally,
Finally, apparently there's some discussion on October 31st.
we actually have 3 selectmen's meetings in October, the last one is on Halloween. So we're wondering if we
We need
could
to come
schedule.
We
back.
can bring candy apparently, so.
Tuesday the 30th.
Tuesday, Thursday. Does anyone have a problem with Tuesday, 30th?
No.
So we can all trunk or treat or treat and trunk or.
I don't know if they need a motion or not.
Well, I
Well,
think
let's
the less
make one.
people.
Go ahead,
driving
Rachel,
around,
make a
the
motion.
better. I make a move that we meet on October the 30th, which would be a Tuesday, which would be the day before Halloween.
I will
That
second
doesn't interfere with the planning board, does it?
Well, they can plan to meet at another time. That's what they're good at.
There.
All right. All those in favor to move the meeting from Wednesday to Tuesday? All those in favor? Look at that. Do we have other
I would
business?
just like to announce that the absentee ballots came today, so anybody looking to vote early for the November 6th election, absentee ballots are available.
Get out and vote. Your voice matters.
Yes, thank you.
And if you're on YouTube are wondering where that voice is coming from, it's the cameraman behind
Camera woman,
camera woman.
And I won't be before it
these are
either.
trying times.
I could make a mockery of this, but I won't.
Get hysterical.
I'm not gonna.
Just get angry.
Okay, so that was other business. Do we have any committee updates?
Well,
Jason's saying,
no,
we didn't meet.
can meet.
yeah,
The next harbor board is October 15th, and it's combined with the safe harbor.
There we go.
About that. Rachel, you seem
Yes.
very anxious to jump in.
well, I'm just trying to think, October the 12th, is our next meeting. But our last, recycle meeting, we didn't have Kenny. And so we just kind of got acquainted again and brought up to date about the, what is recyclable, what isn't. And also this waiting game that everybody is playing with recycling, which brings me to the point that Pleasant River seems to have opened up again. Yes. Well, it's, the signs are up the other day when I went to Ellsworth, so I'm thinking maybe the tide, maybe it's coming full circle.
I know Mary
And-
closed theirs towing.
I was there the other day and then all the windows were shut for recycling except for.
They had hours that were open, I assume that was recycling.
They do
And
accept
Mark
some.
Wright,
He charges.
yeah,
He charges 20 cents
is
a pound.
recycling, yeah. And you had a conversation with somebody who was to buy.
Yes, we're looking into that. We were contacted by somebody in Florida wanting a sample of our plastic. And he wants us to send 20 pounds, which we don't crush. So you gotta send 20 pounds of milk bottles and laundry detergent containers.
How do you do
Are
that?
you gonna need a freight? I don't know. It doesn't get.
Could you set them to sail and float in the
Kenny's
current?
upset Kenny to calling him and finding out if it's legit. Maybe this guy is just calling all the recycle centers around the country and getting free 20 pounds of plastic and then doesn't have to go any further. There's this stock. So I don't
That's a
know.
pretty good idea.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But I will say, if you have not, that's just weird.
Yeah.
If I may quote Sarah McConnell, who said, all the cool people show up and recycle.
That's
Saturday
right.
morning is
Yeah,
quite
it's
a party
gathering.
now.
It's a gathering.
It is a gathering site.
Yeah, it is. It's
And
a
all
fun
you
one.
are there, you know who you are. You have
Yes.
a
We are
wonderful time.
still making money on corrugated cardboard. If
Yes.
anybody doesn't
Big money.
recycle at all, if you could at least do your corrugated
Yes.
cardboard, we still make money on that.
Are we
Everything else,
still doing
we are
e-
paying.
e-waste?
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
for a little while longer.
Good.
We don't make any money on that other than it takes the weight out of Marion.
Marion, yeah, and that in and
And
of
glass.
itself is good.
Yeah.
And the ever popular pulverized glass.
We can,
Yes. Okay, and do you want me to talk about economic development? We did have a gentleman come visit us from Consolidated Communications. And he gave us the spiel as to what they were prepared to do. We are now waiting for Spectrum, whom I put a call in. That's as much as I can do. You have to wait. Right now, Spectrum is probably tied up totally with the new digital box.
Yes, yeah.
They were in the Hannaford parking lot today,
I
so that
was
you could
in
go.
Bangor
they'll be there all
today.
week. Till
And
Friday.
it
All week, yeah.
There
Was
was a long-
Consolidated at all in regards to, they have access to all the roads already, as opposed to Spectrum, which is always looking for a return on their investment per mile and how many
Well,
homes there are, which is
yeah.
why it always begs the
Yeah.
difficulty for them to advance in the town because of the space between homes. Consolidated is already here,
Yes,
but they still use Twisted Pair through the phone line.
Yeah.
Every 3 miles, I believe, is their hub, and if you're lucky, you're getting 4 or 5 meg.
Yeah.
And when we talk about high speed, Spectrum, for those who have it downtown, generally you're looking at 100 meg with
Yeah.
a 10 upgrade, which the phone system just can't do.
Yeah.
So what is Consolidated willing to do other than what technically?
well, we have a map of what they've done, what they've got here.
Right.
And one of the things that I'm proposing is that we include Trescott in this. Because Trescott is so intertwined with Lubec, it's virtually Lubec. So we might as well include that and see what Spectrum can offer.
Which might, well, again, the problem Spectrum's gonna have is they're always gonna look at their ROI, and
But they're gonna look at money and they're gonna
Trescott's
look at
not
how
gonna
many
help.
people.
Trescott's not gonna help. And in the end, speaking for, I think, a lot of people in town as well as myself, high speed and speed you can have all you want, but even getting a couple megs is worth something, but when it's $60, $70, $80, and if you have TV, and if you don't, then it's basically no sense of a discount at all. That's where I'd like to see them put their efforts.
What?
In their packaging, because I'll tell you where I am, I get 3 meg speed.
Yeah.
Which where I came from, you get laughed at. But the fact that there's only 2 or 3 other homes on the street, I can watch television, I can watch Netflix, I can work on a tablet, I've got my cell phone. It's adequate. What's not adequate is the price.
Yes, and thank you for letting me know what I paid for it, because I didn't know before you just said that.
So
Okay.
that's
Give
what,
some candy, which place? Because
that is what, as we are concerned, being the overseers, it's not just high speed.
No, it's,
It's adequate speed and adequately providing the townspeople with the opportunity, because granted, it is not a required utility, which has been a battle for about 50, 60 years now. But, you know, the price and the way they package these things is a little out of hand.
okay.
Do you have a date for the next meeting?
No, we don't.
But
I'm
I-
gonna wait till Denise gets back and then we'll go from there.
I mean, I can speak, I remember historically, no, I ain't waiting here. I can speak, I remember working for a cable company that used to offer a discounted price
Uh-huh.
for senior citizens.
Mhm.
And government all got involved. And they said, if you can offer the discount for the few, you can offer the discount for the many. And because it was a private company, they said, well, then how about discounts for none? Thank you very much. So again, I look at pricing as the opportunity of high speed, not just having high speed. 30 years in the business, don't get me going. Don't talk.
Give that some candy.
I just tried to.
Have
some
candy.
All right, and so you may not know this, but there has just been a mandate from the state about opening up rural fiber optic broadband, so that there's gonna be some monies to help that. The other thing is, we are really, yes, you can, anybody can take or download or whatever it is, all the TV shows you want, that's fine, Netflix, that's fine. That's not why we're doing this. We're doing this to make it consistent, high-speed internet. So that if somebody wants to bring their family up here and do a business out of their home, which is a growing thing that's happening in this country. People move out of the city, they go into rural areas where their kids can have a healthy lifestyle and work out of home. And that can happen here in downtown, that's fine. If you live downtown, you can do pretty much that. But if you live out, let's say Crow's Neck, Straight Bay, even down on Boot Cove Road, you don't get it consistently. That's what we're trying to do. And my only purpose, my major purpose, is to see these providers talk and perhaps wait for the best deal. And knowing full well that we're going to be, that money is going to get supplemented with state grants. Okay?
To wire the street or to help pay our bills?
No, it won't pay your bills. You're gonna have to pay a monthly fee, depending on how much you want. If you don't wanna have it, you don't have to have it.
That is true.
Yeah, because you can still download Netflix. But if you want to start a business out of your home, then it would behoove you to have this. Okay?
Mhm.
And a lot of people may not need it, but I'm saying it should be there, because if people wanna move to this area, that's, if you talk to a real estate person, that's the number one question. What are the schools like first? And then secondly, does this place have fiber optics high speed? Two major questions. I can't do anything about the schools yet, but I can try to work on this.
Yes, but you do need the uploads.
Yeah,
If you're
gotta
gonna
have
from
them,
home.
gotta have them. Okay, then, I'm shut up right now.
I'll follow all that up with, our local channel has moved to channel 1303.
Yes.
So,
Oh,
that's streaming.
yeah.
People probably have found it by now.
Well, I hooked up that little digital box, my downstairs TV, and I felt like a genius when I did it. Oh my God, it's working. It was like when I put together a grill and I followed the directions. They were in English, and
I stood in line for an hour today to get one of those little black boxes.
did you really?
Yeah.
It's actually.
Well, that started my angry out.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
not
I know, okay.
Yes, because God forbid you wire your home and go cable ready, in which case you would be charged for all these other extras. But they're all doing us a favor, aren't they? hands.
Well, this box will
God
be
bless the
free
people.
for what, until January or whatever, so.
I think it's got out of hand, Renee.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Gavel them down.
All right, yeah. I'm just gonna, Down East EMS, we had our new meeting, for this year, September 24th. It was a really positive meeting. You guys are doing really, really good. I mean, everything's going good as far as we know. They bought a new stretcher, used stretcher, a new, hydraulic one, whatever it is. What else? So they've done a lot of stuff. They've got new mannequins and they've got stuff that they're doing with those, and they've just, things are really looking good for Down East EMS right now.
Good.
Compared to when we started. It's, our next meeting is, the Christmas business meeting on December 10th.
That's your next meeting?
Yeah.
December 10th?
Yeah, at Friendly Restaurant.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We're getting close to Christmas.
So we have our same, board of directors right now. Gilbert Murphy is the chair.
Probably going to 16th.
16th, 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Opportunities for money to start a business here in town. Please look at our website. Take advantage. I need not say more, otherwise.
Planning board, the 16th, if anything comes up to the planning board. I'd like to remind the public the school budget vote is tomorrow night at 6 o'clock after school. So please show up
In the cafeteria.
in the cafeteria. And lastly, for me, county budget meetings began. I went to the first one last week, I believe.
Oh, so exciting.
We got a rundown of the budget. My next one will be this coming Thursday, a week from tonight. And I'd like to know going in, because last year I didn't, how the select board feel. I mean, there are other people there on the committee that have city councilmen and they instruct them, don't vote for any raises, don't vote for any increase. So
Mhm.
they just completely just
Flatline.
flatline and know everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I, last year, was put in a position about the 3 additional deputies.
Mm.
And all those committees that said, communities that said no, they all have local police departments, and we don't. And the sheriff's department is our local. And so the happy medium was to hire 1 additional.
Mhm.
It wasn't very popular, but that's what went down. But I didn't have the luxury of having the select board already having tell me what to do.
Right,
yeah.
So do you have any idea or any thoughts and feelings on what you want me, how you want me to vote on issues?
Have they given you any outline of?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can put a copy of that.
yeah,
Well, I
I'll give
think
you the memo from
The
the
compromise in the
county
place was
manager.
probably very good, because we would be stupid to vote against another person considering that we depend on them. Which brings me to, I noticed that the state policeman had stopped a car on the way out of Lubec today. And it was a car from New Brunswick. So delighted.
So yes, I will put a copy of the memo in your box.
Wasn't you?
A lot of
No.
expenses are to do with the upkeep of the historic buildings, the old slate roof and
Mhm.
heating systems and such for the jail and the courthouse and
Mhm.
all those administrative buildings. They're old, they're very
Mhm.
old, and they cost a lot to fix up,
Yeah.
so that's pretty, a big portion of the increase.
It is.
And the sheriff's department was looking for increase in salary for the
Mhm.
sheriff, and we haven't got to that department yet, but it was in the memo.
Mhm.
How they had done a wage study, a national wage study, and the sheriff and the chief deputy and the jail person were all way under. I don't know about you, but Irene, I'm feeling this is Washington County, everybody's underpaid.
That's right. This is a poor.
Yeah, and it depends on who you're comparing it to.
Right.
We just don't have the money.
Right.
Do they have anybody over there that can write a grant for the, for all the upkeep of the building?
I'm not sure.
I mean, I think that's a national historic.
Yes,
Yeah.
they should go to the historic
Yeah, why
commission.
couldn't they go and write a grant for that instead of, having us absorb that?
I think that's a valid reason to.
Wow, I mean,
I mean, our
Yeah,
tax
and
base
there
is
are,
shrinking.
Yeah.
And they want to spend more.
well, with Lubec landmarks, I mean, we're categorized as a historic place. However, when you get blurbs from the historic commission, they're always talking about how they've done municipal buildings and they've helped out. So I think that's valid. I think we should, yeah. Kirk Money. Yep, Mike Johnson.
That's it.
Public comments?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I think we've entertained these people long enough.
Yes, with my anger. Everybody's not.
Cheryl, come on back.
They're trying to hit you with this.
John here, 1998, John here. G.
See, you're a hero.
G is a giraffe.
I'm so G as in glass.
Yes.
It's G, though.
Yeah.
Or G. Cool.
Hey, very cool.
Thank you.
Well, and you're welcome in this any job, I mean, he's like, as much as he can. I also think